How's it going, everybody? All right, today I have a deep dive into an issue of Muscle and Fitness from August 1991. So this is an old one here. Um, it's interesting that they have this article, this eight page special, taking years off your body, working out past 35, everything you need to know. I actually wanna talk about that, but I'll get to that later. So something funny. I've been noticing copycat channels springing up all of a sudden. Uh, Channels that are doing deep dives into individual bodybuilding magazines, older individual bodybuilding magazines. Now, as far as I know, I started this. I'm the originator, particularly talking about it from the perspective of an industry insider, of a fitness industry insider. But I've been seeing channels that are doing deep dives into individual magazines. And, as far as I know, I created that. I could be wrong, but I'll tell you this, I never saw anybody doing it before me. And the videos I've been seeing are recent after I started doing it. I've seen people unbox, boxes of older magazines, and maybe talk about multiple magazines at once, but never saw anybody do the deep dives. So, again, I could be wrong, but I sure as hell never saw anybody do it before me. I remember this stuff. So anyway, I guess imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but don't forget who started it. Yours truly. All right. Yeah, I remember this stuff. I wonder why they call it anabolic. I mean, because well, anabolic, part of the definition is positive metabolism. So I mean, I guess that's what they're referring to. But they couldn't have been selling full-blown anabolics at GNC, especially back in 1991. So, but yeah, this is like I said, my favorites are the ones from the early 90s, late 80s. Um, and look at this. Training past 40. Bodybuilding can save your life. Now, I wanted to talk about that. I've been seeing thumbnails for videos uh, giving advice about training, past 40, training past 60, training past 50. Now, the sad part is all of them are about gaining muscle past 50, gaining muscle past 40, gaining muscle past 60. I saw one where they talk about how a man over 60 can thicken his biceps. Now, I work with seniors. The youngest person I train right now, well, actually, the youngest person I train is about 12. But next to that, the youngest person I train is 61 or 62, I believe. So I pretty much specialize. This is bullshit. I specialize in training older people. It's what I enjoy the most. I get to learn a lot about aging, and it's rewarding, to help people walk better, stand up straighter, so forth and so on. Increase hip and spinal mobility. I enjoy training older people, so I know what I'm talking about. I used to teach a class for 13 years that was literally called functional strength training for seniors. And I'd still be teaching the class if the lady that took over it wasn't batshit crazy. She took over the program, and it was just impossible to get along with her and her irrational thinking. So that was that. But I really enjoyed teaching that class. But I'll assure you, to these guys talking about, you know, gaining muscle in your 40s, 50s, and 60s and thickening your biceps past 60. Once you get into your 60s and beyond, you're going to have bigger fish to fry than thickening your biceps. And that's just a fact. As we get older, our intervertebral discs start to compress. That's not just you. That's not just me. It's not just your next door neighbor. It's everyone. All right. This is the reason why grandma and grandpa always seem to shrink. Like maybe you remembered them being taller. Well, it's because they were. They lost an inch or so or whatever because their intervertebral discs compressed. All right, and your intervertebral discs act as shock absorbers for spinal movement. So once this happens, once they start to compress, you don't have those shock absorbers, or at least to the same extent. So it does make you a little bit more susceptible to injury. It makes mobility a little harder. So as you get older, you're definitely going to want to focus on spinal and hip mobility, because you can continue to move your spine and to move it in all different directions, but it takes work, particularly after your discs start to compress. Okay, your hip mobility is going to decrease as you get older. It tends to happen. Core strength and stability tends to diminish. And you need that, particularly considering the fact that your intervertebral discs are going to be compressed. Okay, something else that happens is your nervous system, the capacity of your nervous system to transmit messages and to receive messages throughout the body starts to diminish. Okay, so you want to focus on that. And the neuroplasticity of your brain starts to diminish. So you want to focus on that. All right, your body starts to produce less nitrous oxide. So it becomes harder to process oxygen. Okay, the amount of oxygen that can be extracted from your blood starts to diminish. And of course, you need oxygen to produce ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and it's the cellular fuel that runs your whole body. Okay, so as you get older, you're going to want to do cardio, and you're going to want to do a lot of cardio. You're going to want to get your heart rate up really high. Okay, so that you're training your anaerobic energy system, not just your aerobic energy system, but the anaerobic energy system. Okay, you're going to want to increase your bone density as you get older. And like I said, I want to place emphasis, your aerobic energy system, aerobic glycosis isn't enough. You're going to want to enhance the anaerobic energy system, anaerobic glycosis. And that's really intense. So if you're over 60 and you're focused on gaining muscle, everything that I just mentioned will interfere with that. Particularly training your anaerobic glycosis energy system. When you're getting your heart rate up, you're jacking it up super high, 2 or 3 times a week. You're going to end up cannibalizing calories that you need to build and sustain muscle tissue. All right, so more so than gaining and focusing on muscle size, you want to focus on strength, functional strength. And strength actually has a lot more to do with your nervous system and your ability to recruit muscular fibers than it has to do with the size of your muscle. So in other words, you can easily enhance your nervous system and your strength capacity without necessarily building huge muscles. So building huge muscles is just a completely different animal. It's a horse of a different color. And as you get older, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to focus on that, because building bigger muscles is going to be the least of your worries. The 61-year-old guy that I train, every time I turn around, there's some type of injury. There's some type of issue, whether it's shoulders or hips or elbows, back. I train an 83-year-old. Every time I turn around, there's something bothering him physiologically. Hip flexors, hips, lower back, knees. So if you think that you're going to be in your 60s and your 70s and thickening your biceps is going to solve all your problems, I don't mean any disrespect, but you're a fucking fool. You need to grow up, because thickening your biceps isn't going to mean shit. Yeah, it'll be great for your vanity. It'll feel good to have, people say, oh, look at the muscles on this 60, 70-year-old man. But it's not going to even begin to solve your problems. And I know what I'm talking about. So for those that want to argue, just don't give me your bullshit. Just don't give me your bullshit, because I work with seniors. That's what I do. I can train anyone, but I specialize in seniors. And aging is a son of a bitch, and thickening your biceps and making your pecs bigger isn't even going to begin to solve your problems. It's not even going to begin. And along that path, there'll be injuries anyway. If you're working on thickening your biceps, shit, sooner or later you're going to end up with, a tendonitis or some type of inflammation or tennis elbow or something. That's just what happens. So these videos that I'm seeing about gaining muscle past 60 are just clickbait bullshit. All right, just like I say, with all the misinformation on YouTube about strength training, and just in general, everywhere you look, oh my God. I mean, these people clearly don't know what the fuck they're talking about. All right, and they clearly don't really work in the fitness industry. But when you've done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of sessions, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. That all of this pie in the sky bullshit about strength training is just that. It's pie in the sky bullshit. It does not work the way you think it is. And you absolutely must learn to think about more than just building big muscles. Because building big muscles is more likely to cause problems than they are to solve your problems. And out of everything I just said, remember the intervertebral disc part. It's something that none of us can escape. As you get older, if your back starts feeling a little bit more creaky, a lot of that is because your intervertebral discs have compressed, and it's just a part of aging. It happens to all of us, and the exercises that are going to help you are not going to be deadlifting 500 pounds. That's more likely to cause more problems. It's going to be a lot of the exercises that are going to help you are going to be the ones that you probably think are for sissies, to be honest. They're going to be the ones that focus on spinal mobility, and a lot of isometric stuff, drawing as much blood into your lower back as humanly possible, but incorporating mobility, particularly, and also for the hip. You can't just focus on spinal mobility. When you hear me talk about mobility, I tend to say hip and spinal mobility back to back. Hip and spinal mobility. I usually don't just say one or the other, because they kind of share a symbiotic relationship. Because your hips, your pelvic area is kind of the epicenter of your body. When you think about your pelvis, and the way that your spine attaches to the pelvis, and the way that your femur rotates internally and externally, your pelvis, your hip area is, and that ends up including the spine, because your spine attaches down there, so it's the epicenter. So I tend to lump hip mobility and spinal mobility together, and it's just imperative that you maintain that as you get older, or you're going to be in a lot of pain, and you're going to be quite susceptible to injury. So that's just something to think about. The next time you hear some YouTube dipshit talk about gaining muscle, being more muscular than ever at 60. Boy, he's so muscular because he's 60. Like that means that you're fit. It doesn't. That's ignorant. It doesn't. Fit is functional as well as aesthetic. Fit is functional as well as visual. But just saying something that looks good, you think that means fit. You're stupid. And you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Fit is so functional. Fit is about what your body can do. Fit is about the damage that your body can take without getting injured. It's about the pounding that your body can take without getting injured. Fit is being able to jack your heart rate up really high and not passing out from it. Fit is being able to move. Fit is being able to turn around in your car, reach for something in the back seat without hurting your freaking back. All right, for some people, they turn around in their car, like if they're at a stoplight or something, and they turn around, they reach back to get something out of their back seat, boom, instant back injury, because they don't have any spinal mobility. That is what fit is. It's your capacity to move, and to move unexpectedly. It's your capacity to fall down if you slip on something without getting injured. That's what fit is. It's not just about what you see. And we've really gotten that misconstrued over the years. So just remember, I've been waiting to get that off my chest. Gaining muscle after 60, my ass. You want to gain and maintain strength after 60. And what is strength? What is strength? I just said it. Strength is more so neurological than it is big, discernible, muscle bellies like this. I mean, it looks great and all of that, but strength is neurological. Some of the best power lifters, have advanced nervous systems. That's how they're able to lift all of that weight. It isn't big, huge muscle, and there's some power lifters who aren't visually that big. There's certainly a lot of power lifters that don't have those aesthetic physiques. Some of them tend to be big and kind of chubby. And I've seen power lifters that are relatively skinny and that are strong as hell. And, powerlifting in the end is just as bad as bodybuilding. And if you continue to do it throughout your life into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, at some point you're going to get injured through that as well. But the nuts and bolts of powerlifting revolve around your nervous system a lot more than people realize. It's not just big muscles. And an advanced nervous system is a good thing. So as you get older, you want to think about maintaining strength, maintaining your nervous system. That's what's going to help you. Because, life is short, as they say, right? But something that people forget about is, in a life that's already short, what sucks more than anything is if you weren't careful, the last 20, 30 years of an already short life are horrible because you can't move, because you can't take care of yourself. Every little thing you do hurts your back, So that in itself makes an already short life seem even shorter. So if human beings are usually going to live for like just under 100 years, like around 100 years, that's pretty much where we are now. People pass away of natural causes. If they're lucky, they'll, late 90s. Some people make it past 100, but we don't seem to live much past 100 for the most part. So if you could imagine living all that time, whatever it is, if it's 80 years, if it's 90 years, if it's 100 years, what if all of those years could be quality? Where you can hike, you can walk, you can take care of yourself, you You don't need a nurse. You don't need someone to help you wipe your ass when you go to the bathroom. All right, what if you could live that way? That's what people should be thinking about. But man, these YouTube channels are just so honed in on building muscle. They're so focused on the visual aspect. And they sound like me when I first started personal training. You know, these guys sound like young, inexperienced personal trainers. Because young, experienced personal trainers don't know shit. You know what I mean? I hate to say it. I was one of them once, but we don't know anything. And when we're young and we're just getting into the fitness industry, most of us are pretty much honed in on one aspect, and that's aesthetics. That's building muscle. You know, and it took a long time for me to care about functional exercise, hip and spinal mobility, the synovial fluid of the joints. You know, what do you do if you have tennis elbow? What do you do if you have tendonitis? What do you do if you have a shoulder impingement? What do you do if you have frozen shoulder? What do you do if a person's balance is horrible and they're falling all the time? I didn't care about that, you know, until I had been in the industry for like maybe 15 years. It took a while to even develop an interest in that, you know. So I think a lot of these YouTube channels, you know, these YouTubers, for one thing, most of them are not certified personal trainers or certified conditioning specialists, or, you know, they don't have a degree in the field. Some of them do, you know, but when all you're talking about is this stuff, gaining muscle, you sound like an amateur. You know, you really do. Because the ones who make a difference can improve the quality of people's lives. And that is not just visual, it is functional. All right. So I'm just going to get off my soapbox and talk about what I see here. That's enough of that. But I hope you guys get the point, and I hope you're not fooled by these stupid YouTube channels. You know, I see so many of them, and the first thing that goes through my mind is these people clearly don't know what they're talking about, and they clearly have not had a real career in this industry like I have. Because man, you'll see that these guys are way off. If they really worked in this industry, they know that they're just way off. And speak of the devil, training past 40, bodybuilding gives you the most from the best years of bodybuilding gives you the most from the best years of your life. And now, you know, strength training in general, like I said, you know, it's great for the nervous system. I wish they'd focus more on that, you know, but the problem I have is when you're working out, then you go home and you look in the mirror and you become obsessed with, damn, I wish my chest was bigger. Next time I go into the gym, I'm going to work my chest harder. Oh, damn, my bicep peaks should be higher. You know, I need to work on that. Well, of course, if you're a pro bodybuilder, well, that's your job, without question. But if you're a person that wants a decent quality of life, you have to think about other things. Man, this video is already getting long, and this magazine is pretty thick. This is one of those big issues, you know. Good stuff. Arnold on the cover. The legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Where's this? Francis Benfado? I think this is Francis Benfado. Physique competitors with their eyes on the Olympic Games have the answer. I've heard about that. Physique competitors with their eyes on the Olympic Games. Lee Labrada talked about that a few years ago. Not what, geez, what am I saying? More than a few years ago. He was talking about that in some magazine I had. It was from like 1991. He was talking about that. About bodybuilding becoming an Olympic sport. Yeah, Rich Gaspari probably had uh, maybe average genetics. No, it had to be a little more than average. I wouldn't say that they're poor, but he did pretty well with a guy that didn't have the best genetics. Of course, in his era, the best genetics belonged to Lee Haney. But Rich Gaspari, as far as I know, he's like the godfather of that super ripped, grainy look. Look at that. From what I understand, he was the first guy to come in there with that absolutely grainy, shredded, ripped look, which was necessary for him because he didn't have the best muscle bellies in the world, so made up for it by being super shredded. But yeah, I was always a fan of Rich Gaspari. And oh yeah, this is just hilarious. Like Bob Paris. What is this? Bob Paris, one of the sharpest, most muscular bodybuilders, depends on dynamic body shaper when getting into top shape. That's hilarious. Yeah. Joe Weider's dynamic body shaper. It's hard to believe that anybody even fell for that. It sounds ridiculous. Joe Weider's dynamic body shaper. All right. So, Schwarzenegger, souvenirs from the greatest. Yeah. Man, I'm gonna get through this because there's this video is getting pretty long, and I still have a considerable amount to go here. But this is a good one. This is one of my favorites. This magazine, because I didn't tear anything out. Man, I'm so glad I didn't. I didn't tear anything out. This is from 1991. New stacking system, only 1 hour a day guaranteed. Okay. Yeah. Get the most out of your training. Albert Beckles. I wonder if he's still alive. I'll have to Google that. The last time I saw any footage of him was about like 5 or 6 years ago, and he was in his 90s, I believe, and he was using a walker. Which, it makes you think, man, is bodybuilding all it's cracked up to be? Like he shouldn't be on a walker, unless it was temporary and maybe he had some car accident or something like that, but just in general, he shouldn't need a walker if you have true functional strength. I remember this Arnold's Bodybuilding for Men. I got that from the library. I never owned it. I own this one, Joe Weider's Ultimate Bodybuilding. I have that. I think I'll probably show it at some point. I mean, I'm almost done here. So, I hope you guys got something out of this. And hope you enjoyed this. Dynamic weight gainer. Drawing to a close here. At this point, there probably won't be much more than ads anyway, for the most part. Man, this is a long one. Is that Lee Labrada? Yeah, it's Lee Labrada. He would have been a good ambassador as Mr. Olympia. He got close. I think he came in second place in 1990. But, they didn't want to give it to the small guy anymore. I think the last small aesthetic open Mr. Olympia, off the top of my head, is Frank Zane. Build wider delts. Yeah, man. That's not going to work for everybody. I tend to have wide shoulders, and I would get clients that wanted me to give them wide shoulders. It's like, can't do it, buddy. I got my wide shoulders from my parents. Okay, this is about it. All right. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And I will be back soon with more content on the fitness industry, personal training, and strength training in general. Please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. PLA Mind and Bodyworks, the originator. Bye-bye.